April 14, 2025, 8:12 a.m. Dunkin' on Maple Street by the DMV. I ordered a medium coffee and a bacon. Egg, cheese. The receipt said $6. T-shirt. The sky looked like a faded t-shirt. A mom wiped jelly off a toddler's face with a napkin and her sleeve. It smelled like burnt sugar and fryer oil. Home. If home means muscle memory. I hadn't been back in 10 years. I told myself it was for business. It was also for a ghost with a blue collar. My name's Hannah. I'm 29. My dad is Michael. My mom is Karen. My brother is Jason, the golden child. My dog was Blue. I ate in the car. Nose to nose with a dented Civic. A man returned his coffee because they used sugar instead of Splenda. He wasn't mad. Just tired. I know that feeling. You don't explode. You make a note. The first injustice was small. It always is. 17. Junior year. After my Kroger shift, I kept tips and bagged cash in an envelope under my mattress. That day I counted $1. 200 even. Shots for Blue. Food. A real vet check. Maybe a better crate so he wouldn't chew the desk corner. I lifted the mattress that night. The envelope was flat. Mom, I held the empty envelope in the kitchen like a dead leaf. She was stirring mustard into Walmart potato salad. The TV weather guy smiled under a green storm map. She didn't turn. Your brother's card got declined. She said, books for next semester. Those aren't books. I said, he already graduated. She dropped the spoon. Don't talk back. You've got enough? Hannah, you feed a dog like it's a person. We're a family. Dad walked in from the garage. Grease on his knuckles. Shop towel in one hand, beer in the other. He didn't ask. He took the envelope. Thumbed it. Slid it into his back pocket. You live here, he said. Voice flat. What's in this house is this house. Blue sat by the fridge. Tongue out. Head tilted like he understood. His collar was bright blue like the crayon in a kid's box. He'd nosed the potato salad earlier. A smear of mustard streaked the strap. I wiped it with my sleeve. My hands shook. My voice didn't. Okay, I said. I hear you. That's how you survive some houses. You collect sentences. You file them away. You don't scream. Because they'll make your scream the story. You go quiet. You take stock. Cuts piled up. Jason's 18th. He got a stainless steel watch, Dad said. Cost $450. Give or take. I got a $50 shell card and a warning not to drive too much. His graduation, a rented tent. Costco cake with his name in blue frosting. Coolers of Bud Light. Mine lukewarm sheet pizza, and we're busy this week. He got a used Civic to get you to that job downtown. I kept riding the bus with cracked vinyl seats that tattoo lines on your thighs in July. Daily American details stack like receipts in a glove box. Kroger time cards. The bleach smell at the diner where I picked up late shifts. Mom whispering useless thing. When I asked for a signature on a scholarship form. Dad setting his beer on the same coffee table ring. Leaving a permanent circle. Jason's I'll pay you back Venmo's weird. And it never came. It's not one blow. It's the steady push. When Grandma got sick, the house went quiet in a new way. No shouting. Just calculation. Mom kept a spiral notebook by the landline names. Dates. Who visited. Who didn't. Dad wore his good work boots to the hospital like respect. Lived in leather. He called her Ma and didn't look at me. A week before March 2. We were alone. She wanted crushed ice. Her nails had ridges like old seashells. You listening, she whispered. Yes. Ma'am. Don't let them change the paper. I didn't know what she meant. A week later. I love your cold. There was a will. There were conditions. Words like co-owner and consent floated in the afternoon dust. Dad closed the kitchen door. Mom ran the faucet. Jason went outside to call somebody. Laughing like a guy who found a 20 in his coat. The night Blue died. It rained. Not pretty rain. The kind that makes the garage smell like mildew and rubber. I came home to the sound of metal and something that wasn't metal. Blue whimpered like dogs do when they dream. He wasn't sleeping. A shovel. Bare concrete. No yelling. Dad stood over him. He looked at me the way you read store hours. If you don't behave, you'll be like that dog. Mum didn't cry. She looked at me. Not him. What a useless thing. A little laugh. Like I'd told the same bad joke again. They locked me in my room. The click still wakes me. I stared at college brochures and a calendar with a golden retriever and glasses. Tape curls at the corners. My phone was on the desk. I pressed record. I said the date. I said what I heard. I described shovel. Rain. Smell. It was habit by then to document life like a cashier logging coupons. I didn't cry until I saw the collar. Later. After the lights went out, one by one, I eased the window screen. Slithered to the roof. Dropped to the grass. The collar hung on a nail in the garage like a trophy. Blue against gray. The smear on the strap had dried. Mustard. Stupid. Ordinary. It broke me. I pressed the plastic buckle to my chest and cried without sound. 2 nights later I left. Backpack. $80 in tips. W2 inches the front pouch. The collar looped through a belt loop on my jeans. I told no one. I caught the 510A. M. Greyhound from the station behind the IHOP. The one with the flicker light. The heater didn't work. The bathroom door didn't latch. We rolled past cornfields and billboards. I love your number. A mattress sale. A church sign. GODCs. I stared out and made a promise. I didn't say I'll come back when I'm ready. Not when you call. 10 years is long enough for a secret to grow teeth. I learned to listen more than talk. I learned county websites. I learned the courthouse smell, copy paper, and old carpet. Clerks have good days and bad, like everyone. I learned not to flinch at raised voices. I saved every email. Not answering a text is also an answer. I built life the boring way. 2 jobs. Night classes. A studio with a hissing radiator. A snake plant that survived 4 years. Friends who didn't demand proof of worth. I walked dogs for cash and tried not to pick favorites. But I always noticed blue collars. I kept Blue's collar in a shoebox with my social security card and old receipts. On moving days. That box rode in my lap. Then, last month, my phone pinged. I track addresses the way some people track ex's Zillow. Redfin. County records. Hobby. Sure. Also silent preparation. The Maple House showed a home equity line opened 8 months ago. Grainy PDF. Doc hash 41827. 2 signatures. Not mina. I didn't flare. I filed. I sent a certified letter to the bank. A question. Not an accusation. I taped the USPS tracking inside the shoebox lid next to the collar. I booked a week at Motel 6 off the highway. $59. 99 plus tax. Room key with a scratch down the middle. I rented a gray Nissan. I told my boss I needed time for family matters. Not a lie. I mapped the clerk's office, the lawyer's building. Where the outlets are near the lobby chairs, I opened notes and made a list titled Maple. Bullets. Checkboxes. It made my breathing even. So this morning, Dunkin' coffee in the cup holder. I drove past the high school. Same brick. Same softball fence bent in one corner. Past Kroger where I used to clock out and count tips by the time clock. Onto our street. The house looked smaller. That happens when you leave. The lilac bush Grandma loved was brown sticks. A crooked for rent sign leaned by the mailbox. Phone number in vinyl. The porch bulb buzzed at 830 A.M. Like a trapped fly. I parked across. Met my own eyes in the rear view. I looked like someone who slept and ate. Not a hero. Not a victim. A person with a plan. Mrs. Lopez Samerobe. Same slippers shuffled out for the paper. She saw me. Held up 2 fingers. A little peace sign. Her mouth made an O. She pressed her hand to her chest. I lifted my chin. Not yet. I thought. We'll talk when I'm done. I opened the shoebox on the passenger seat. The collar sat on top. Smooth from years of touch. I clicked it around my wrist like a bracelet. Plastic buckle. Tiny snap. I don't wear jewelry. This felt right. Checklist clerk. Lavier. Bank. Last. The doorbell camera I bought on sale at Lowe's, because proof is cheap if you plan. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. We heard you're in town. Don't start something you can't finish. 3 dots. Another text. We're still your family. I set the phone face down. Took a sip. The coffee was already losing heat. Maple Street was quiet except for a lawn crew, 2 doors down. A blower whining. A man sipping from a gas station cup. I turned the key and let the engine settle. There's a kind of revenge that doesn't shout. It documents. It timestamps. It asks the right clerk on the right day. It doesn't need an audience. It needs a file number. I pulled into traffic. Checked my mirrors. Merged. I don't knock anymore. I file. April 14. 2025. 931A. M. County Clerk's Office. Second floor toner. Lemon cleaner. Shoes on wax tile. A TV on mute looped a PSA about dog licenses. I pulled a red ticket from the dispenser A. 109. The Keurig hissed hazelnut into the air. My Dunkin' was already lukewarm. Small wound. Fresh day. The man 2 windows down didn't look up. Sweetheart, he said, tapping keys like they'd stolen from him. If you wanted rights. You should have stayed local. He slid my ID back with his fingertip. Like heat was contagious. I noted his nameplate Brent. I didn't correct him. I wrote his name in Maple Notes app. Then I breathed. A 109. The speaker crackled. Window 4. Carla. Cardigan the color of mint gum. Pen with a sunflower taped to it. I slid the packet. Grandma's will. The clause that says co-owner. The line that repeats consent. She read without dramatics. The good clerks never perform. You have your affidavit, she asked. Stamped this morning. UPS store notary. Square and black. We'll record a list pendens. She said. Puts a cloud on the title. No one can claim they didn't know. Her click sounded like a metronome. Fees $38. Woosher. Card. I tapped. The terminal beeped. She stapled the receipt to my copy and slid it back. Document number posts by 3. She said. Search by parcel or name. Thank you. I said. Paper has a voice. She said. Soft. Like church. Next. 1012A. M. Adler Co. Over the bakery that sells oatmeal cookies bigger than my palm. The receptionist's nails had tiny daisies. The office smelled like copier warm-up and sugar. Mr. Adler wore a tie with coffee cups on it and had a basset hound photo on the shelf. He read the will. Then the home equity documents. Then my affidavit. The line of credit is frail. He said. Your missing signature is a missing leg. Table still stands until you lean. Lean. I said. We'll follow the ILS pendants with a lender notice. He said. And a letter to any prospective tenants. Clouded title means proceed at your own risk. He drafted while I watched heavy letterhead. The kind that thuds when it lands. To whom it may concern. Missing co-owner consent. Reliance is unreasonable. He looked up. We send certified entity. You save every scrap. I keep a box. I said. He slid me a yellow pad. Log every call. Date. Time. Who said what? Exact words. I titled the page Maple Calls and made my first entry 1026A. M. Adler, Lean. O. 1140A. M. The Bank on Oak. Lobby lollipops. No kid wants. A kid's table with crayons jammed into a styrofoam cup. I asked for the manager. Teresa arrived. Navy blazer. Soft shoes. Practical smile. I'm here about doc hash 41827. I said, I'm a named co-owner. My consent isn't on it. I spread the will. The list pendants receipt. Adler's letter. Paper fanned like a quiet weather system. She read. She frowned. Not at me. She called Rita in compliance. On speaker. Hold. Music ran 6 piano notes into the ground. Teresa muted a second. It's unusual, she said. Not rare. Rita came on. I spelled my name. I used the will's vocabulary co-owner. Consent. Executed without. I gave the loan date. I gave my absence. I gave their problem. Rita exhaled. We'll place a temporary suspension pending review, she said. 48 hours. Appreciated. I said. Thank the documents, she said. Click. Teresa printed an internal note. My name on it. Loan number partially redacted. Keep this, she said. If anyone calls you, log it. I slid the page into the shoebox in my passenger seat. Blue's collar touched it. Plastic on paper. Like a blessing. 115p. M. Lowe's. I grabbed a doorbell camera off the clearance shelf, last year's model. Open box. Sticker as is. Batteries anyway. Zip ts. Painter's tape. At the subway by the exit. A dad wiped yellow mustard from a toddler's cheek. The collar at my wrist warmed. The world has a way of repeating itself until you answer 203p. M. Maple Street Stakeout. C on low. Karen was mid-church smile for a young couple. She pointed at the porch. Did the palm-up realtor swoop? The guy wore a Planet Fitness tee. The woman sipped from a Target water bottle with peeling stickers, a moon, a cow, a cat in skates. I filmed through a barely cracked window, not for the internet. Memory needs proofs too. Karen's phone rang. She turned away. I rolled my window another inch. No. We can't wait, she said. Money's tight since. She glanced at the couple. Pitched her voice down. Since the mess. A beat. Michael's handling everything. The old tone slid in. Hannah. She doesn't. She kept her face still. She's not here. I let a smile happen. I texted Adler mom showing suck. He answered. Notices going out. 308p. M. County site updated 2025 to 003312. I screenshotted. Then printed at the library for 10 cents. The librarian stamped 312p. M. In purple because the printer likes attention. I filed both digital, paper. 2 mirrors. 340p. M. Porch steps. Old wood. Wasp paper tucked in the eaves. The porch light buzzing at daylight, like it forgot its job. The door was of course unlocked. I mounted the camera with painter's tape for now. The app chimed connected. I named it Blue Front. Motion alerts. Every time. I stood there and studied the paint. The scratches clustered around the lock, like a constellation. I let my palm hover over the wood. I didn't touch. The house doesn't get that from me. 422p. M. My phone vibrated. Motion detected Blue Front. I watched from the car. Michael stepped into frame. Jacket I know by heart, cuff, stained with a color most people don't recognize until you point. He tried the handle. Slipped inside without knocking. Got it, Jason, off camera. Yeah. Michael said, let's get the papers before his voice dropped. Before anybody notices. Clear? The way posted hours are clear. I saved the clip 3 ways. Phone. Cloud. USB behind my library card. I sent it to Adler with the subject. Got it. He replied. Evidence prefers silence. 605p. M. I parked at the bank again. Symmetry is a calm drug, and dialed the number on the crooked for rent sign. Vinyl bubbles under the digits. Karen answered on the second ring. Voice candle warm. Hi. I said. I saw the listing. It's a lovely property. She rushed. 2 bedrooms. Close to schools. New appliances. Hi. Mom. Silence. Then the empty clink of my name in her mouth. Hannah. You're being dramatic. No. I said. I'm being exact. You've always been ungrateful. She said. We did what we had to do. Family is. Family is consent. I said. And mine wasn't given. I don't know what you think you have. She said. It won't last. Sun hit the office windows and shattered into the lot. I have a file number. I said. And a doorbell. She ended the call. I logged it on the yellow pad, 607p. M. Karen ungrateful. Exact words. Exact minute. 730p. M. Motel 6. The A divided by C rattled. Then steadied. I laid the day on the bed. Will. List pendens receipt. Banknote. Adler letters. 2025 tot 0. 0. 3. 3. 1, 2 screenshot. The clip frozen on Michael's face. I ate dinner from a gas station bag trail mix. A freckled banana. Diet Coke that hissed like it knew my secrets. The TV filled the room with other people's games and canned laughter. Today's small cuts local from Brent. Unusual from Teresa. Ungrateful from Karen. I don't keep them warm. I let them cool into bricks and build with them. Before sleep, I opened the shoebox. Blue's collar was on top. Plastic smooth from years of thumb passes. The buckle clicked when I squeezed it. I timed my breath with the hum of the unit. Steady in. Steady out. No shaking. Counting. Another motion alert. I didn't look. I know the choreography of that porch, the ghost light. The drag on the hinge. The way night leans across the boards. Proof doesn't need witnesses, it needs timestamps. This wasn't the storm. This was the pressure falling. Tomorrow, I walk into the branch with the clip on a USB and the document number printed twice. One for each of us. Tomorrow, I copy the tenants on the letter and let the clouds sit heavy over the house until even vultures pass. Sharp. Silent revenge isn't fireworks. It's a freeze order posted at 904A. M. It's a clerk initialing the margin. It's the sound of a scanner bar crawling across paper. I set my phone face down. The room darkened. I don't beg. I freeze. April 15. 2025. 804A. M. Bank lot on Oak, the one with the cracked flagstone by the handicap spot and a single tulip trying in bad soil. Lobby lights were on. Sign still said, closed. I chewed a protein bar that tasted like wet cardboard. Watched a sparrow hop between bumpers. And checked gas across the street. $3. 40. A delivery guy shouldered a box of copy paper through the doors. Everyday America. Awake. Small wound to start a security guard, wrapped 2 knuckles on my window. We don't allow camping. He said. Flat. Eyes on the shoebox in my passenger seat. I have a meeting. I said, lowering the glass 2 inches. He tapped his badge Mac. Doors at 9. There's a Starbucks. Thanks. Mac. I said, I'll be right here. Blue's collar caught a stripe of sun and went still. 901A. M. Teresa waved me in. Flats today. Not heels. Compliance reviewed your clip overnight. She said, closing her office door. I looped legal. I set 3 things on her desk in a neat line. The USB, the printout 2025 to 003312, and a copy of Grandma's will with the highlighted co-owner clause. Paper. Plastic. Ink. She hit speaker. Rita. Here? Rita said, calm as yesterday. We're executing a hard freeze on the line, no draws. No, autodebits. Effective 904A. M. A certified letter goes out today. We'll require either a signed consent addendum from both co-owners or a court order. Until then, The account is ice. My phone buzzed temporary suspension active. I like words that do work. Understood. I said. Keep logs. Rita added. Begging. Then threats. Then nostalgia. It's the usual ladder. Click. Teresa slid me an internal note with my name on it. If anyone here gets contacted, it routes to legal only. On my way out, Mac held the door a second longer than necessary. Good luck, he murmured. Luck is for raffles. I said. I brought paper. 1016A. M. Maple Street curb. Mrs. Lopez crossed with a church fundraiser cup of coffee and 2 sugar packets folded into quarters. Windbreaker with a tiny dove embroidered on the chest. She opened my passenger door, like she's always had that right. You set your jaw like your grandma, she said. Settling in. I can smell a freeze from my porch. I need your eyes on a line, I said, sliding the affidavit across. Date you heard blue. What you heard. What you saw. She put on reading glasses held together with floral tape. Read every word, then uncapped a blue pen with her teeth. Signed. Printed. April 15. 2025. The nib squeaked like a door that never got oil. Bring me a copy, she said. And eat something green today. I'll try, I said. I always mean it when I say it to her. 1103A. M. The animal shelter on Ridge. Not the police paper first. Ms. Pruitt. The director. Read my forwarded vet email from 10 years ago. The subject lines nesting like Russian dolls in my own affidavit from that night. She didn't reach for dramatics. People who see worse don't. Statute's tricky on the past, she said. But the video of them entering and removing papers from a house you co-own, that's now, we'll file for trespass and tampering and attach our notes. Patterns matter. She slid a card across. We run a fund for cruelty prosecutions. If charges form, we back the county attorney with legwork. I've been alone before, I said. We prefer when you're not, she said. Bring copies. By noon, my left hand had become a stapler. 1222P. M. Lunch in the car. Wendy's baked potato. Side salad. Butter formed a little river on foil. Radio ad for a mattress store. Then a lawyer who sues other lawyers. America hums in practical keys. 1233P. M. Text from Jason Banks being fussy. Stop making mom upset. We'll fix it. I typed. Deleted. Typed. Deleted. Sent all communication in writing. Save your words. Logged at 1234P. M. Fussy. 105P. M. A locksmith named Gus met me at the porch Raiders cap. Sunburned neck. Hands you trust around hinges. You got paper. Says you can do this, he asked. Not unkind. I showed the will, the list pendants, the doorbell clip, Michael's voice. Let's get the papers before she. Gus didn't need the sentence to finish. 2 cylinders, he said. New keys. I'll bag the old guts with a note. His drill hummed clean. The old lock sighed out like bad teeth. He tagged the new ring Maple Hannah in neat block caps. You want a deadbolt? 2, he asked. I want a boundary. I said. That's what a deadbolt is. He said. Driving 4 screws home with the steady pride of a man who knows endings. Small wound while he worked. Karen's Camry rolled to the curb with Jason riding shotgun. They didn't clock Gus's van until he stood. Jason hopped out with a swagger he'd been practicing since 8th grade. Open up, he called. We have rights. Hi, Jason, I said, stepping into frame. Hi, Mom. Karen's church smile blinked on. Then off. You're taking this too far, she said. Low. We did what we had to do. Michael says. Gus wiped his hands. Afternoon, he said. Working for Ms. Hannah. You can't change the locks. Jason snapped. As a co-owner, I said, even. I can secure the property. No trespass notices posted. If you want access, email my attorney to schedule. Jason Bark laughed. I love you for family. Family is consent. I said, one last time. Mine wasn't given. Karen finally noticed the camera. Her face learned it was being seen. She hissed. You're humiliating us. I'm documenting. I said, humiliation's a side effect. Jason stepped close, jaw working on a word he didn't say. You think a camera scares me? No. I said, honesty should. Gus turned the last screw. Done. He said. He held out a small zip bag with brass and dust inside. For your records? Karen tugged Jason's sleeve. We'll see you in court, she said. It sounded like a dare and a prayer at once. I'll save you a seat. I said. They left. Clear tape held a crack on the Camry's taillight time, showing through. 2:40 p.m. Library. I printed no trespass by order of co-owner in big block font. Laminated for $1. Taped it behind the glass with painter's tape at 4 corners. I set blue front to email Adler every time the door opened. My lawyer deserves to jump at the same ghosts. 3:10 p.m. Clerk's office again. Carla slid a recorded copy of the list pendants under the glass purple stamp. Document number. That faint solvent smell. Green cards in a week. She said, don't lose them. I don't lose paper. I said. She looked at the shoebox. I know. 4:02 p.m. Bank. Teresa had me sit under a ficus that wasn't trying very hard. Certified letters went out. She said, handing me an envelope copy. Also note on your parents' profile, no employee contact except through legal. At the kids' table, a boy tried to color with 2 crayons at once. It made mud. He liked it anyway. 4:37 p.m. Unknown call. I let it ring out. Michael's voicemail landed. Voice measured, like store hours. You're making trouble. You won't understand. Houses are for men to manage. Dogs are dogs. I saved it Michael houses divided by men. Logged. Did not reply. 5:20 p.m. Staples. File folders in glacier blue, because I have a sense of humor. Labels bank. Court. Shelter. Tenants. Audio. I sorted in the car with the A divided by C on and the 6 o'clock weather talking about a cold front. A woman in the next space said into her Bluetooth. He can pay child support but not answer a text. The country is a choir of single sentences that could be whole plays. 6:03 p.m. Motezix. Dinner was a lean cuisine microwaved, 2 fast edges boiling. Middle still ice? I laid the day on the bed freeze email. Recorded number. Mrs. Lopez's affidavit. Pruitt's card. Gus's invoice. Teresa's internal note. The laminated, no trespass. The list pendants copy with the purple bleed. I read Michael's transcript. Again. Houses are for men to manage. I didn't argue with a recording. Recordings never change their lines. Blue front. Person detected. Karen stood on the porch. Fingers on the sign. She read. Shoulders squared. She left it up. Choosing not to tear a thing down is also a sentence. Inbox pinged twice. Adler's tenant letter batch went out. Blind copying me. Property in dispute. Do not rely. Deposits at your own risk. 2 quick replies. Planet Fitness shirt guy, thanks looking elsewhere. Sticker bottle woman, we're out. I didn't cheer. I don't celebrate a lease dying. I celebrate a lie going hungry. I sent Mrs. Lopez a PDF of her affidavit and a thank you. Sent Gus a photo of the sign with his deadbolt glinting. He replied with a single wrench emoji. It meant more than paragraphs. 8:11 p.m. USPS tracker updated accepted at post office for the certified letters. A gray sentence. But if you've ever waited on a green card to come home with 2 signatures and a date, you know it sings. TV off. Room quiet, the kind you win. Not the kind you're given. I brushed my teeth at the small sink. Set the shoebox on the chair by the window. Clicked Blue's collar unsa. Let it rest on top. Tomorrow is filing's temporary injunction to bar unauthorized entry. Tenant notices logged with the county. Freeze confirmation printed twice. One for me. One for anyone who says they didn't see. I'm bringing donuts to the clerk's office. Sugar is the oil of small machines. Today, 1 line shut. 1 door locked. 1 sign faced the street. The sequence is simple. Freeze first, then knock. I don't threaten. I serve. April 16. 2025. 7:58 a.m. County Courthouse. Ground floor. Past the metal detector that smells like pocket change in winter coats. A deputy wanted my boot beep at the zipper. The hallway cart sold burnt coffee for $1. I bought 1 and 2 powdered donuts that dusted my black jeans like chalk. Ordinary morning. Paperwork weather. Small wound to start. Mrs. Fielding from church pearls too tight cornered me by the bulletin board. Karen says you're confused. She whispered. Like a diagnosis. She says you're stealing her home. Good morning. I said. I'm filing a temporary injunction. Her mouth made a small O. A candle just blown out. I kept walking. 8:12 a.m. Civil window. Clerk in a sweatshirt. Coffee is my love language. Namatak Reina. I slid a stack motion. Affidavit. Exhibits blue front stills. Bank freeze email. Recorded list pendants. Mrs. Lopez's statement. I'd tabbed everything in blue. Private jokes are free. Reina flipped. Stump it. Slid the fee calculator. You want ex parte today? Yes. I said. Safety for the property. She nodded. Judge Dillard takes these at 9. Stamp. Stamp. If signed. Sheriff posts. Make 3 copies. Judges like options. 9:03 a.m. Division C. The bailiff called my name like a service ticket. Dillard had a tiny cactus on his bench with a fake neon bloom. He read without commentary, the best kind of reading. You have the bank's freeze, he asked. Yes. I slid Teresa's internal note and the email temporary suspension active. He studied Michael's porch still. Then the line. Let's get the papers before she... He didn't need the rest. Entry without consent. Title dispute? He said. His pen clicked. Temporary restraining order granted, no entry. No removal. No leasing effective upon posting. Hearing May 1. 9:00 a.m. Serve all parties. The bailiff stamped signet in red. Heavy ink. Reina slid me 3 copies with the same rhythm as her calculator. Sheriff Civil is in the basement, she said. Follow the yellow tape. 9:32 a.m. Sheriff Civil. Deputy Alvarez stapled my packet to a bright cover that said service of process and popped a peppermint in his cheek. We'll post today, he said. We'll try personal service on Michael and Karen. Any habits? Wednesdays, 6 p.m. Church. Saturdays, 9 a.m. Mayor groceries. I said. Michael buys the off-brand cereal in a bag. Alvarez grinned. I like working with people who take notes. I slid 2 Krispy Kremes across. Sugar keeps small gears moving. Preach, he said. 1040 a.m. I watched from Starbucks across the street. The app pinged blue front motion. Alvarez's hand. Then, the white sheet with the county seal. Tape in 4 neat squares. He took a photo. The camera took its own 2 proofs. Same truth. Family group text where I'm still a gray bubble lit up. Karen, what is this on the door? Jason, illegal. I'll rip it off. Michael, do nothing. 2 words. Finally useful. I forwarded the screenshot to Adler. He sent back a PDF order posted violation notice. Slide it under the door. He wrote, firm. Not loud. 1115A. M. Insurance office on Main. Fluorescents, pens with logos, poster of a couple under a maple tree that looked like clip art. Agent Kathy read the will's co-owner line. Then my packet? They didn't disclose a co-owner while trying to lease, she said, tapping her keyboard like a chess clock. Underwriting will issue cancellation, pending or change terms. Bank gets the memo. In writing, I said. In writing, she said. Tearing a letter off a perforation, I wanted to rip myself. I didn't. 1150A. M. Code enforcement. Counterman Andre listened while I described the porch sag and the unpermitted rental listing. We aren't a cudgel. He said. Practiced. I don't need one. I said. Sliding the order and my affidavit. If they rent. Tenants get hurt. He studied the photo, the step dip you only see when a camera stares all day. He sighed. We'll do a courtesy inspection. Door hunger. If they don't call. We cite. That's enough. I said. 103P. M. Mayor. Ink for the motel printer and celery because Mrs. Lopez said something green. In frozen foods. I saw Michael compare pizzas. Lips moving. Math out loud. He didn't see me. His phone rang. Yes. I saw it. He said. No. Don't touch it. It's court. He put back the brand box. Picked the cheaper bag with a cartoon tomato. I walked by like he was any man choosing dinner. My heart did nothing. That felt like a document filed. 222P. M. Motel desk. I drafted demand for accounting rents. Deposits. Dates. Amounts. 10 days to respond. Adler added teeth. Failure is conversion with civil penalties. He loves commas where it hurts. 310P. M. Next door ping, beware rental on Maple owner says it's in court, do not pay. Not me. A neighbor. The internet isn't always fire. Sometimes it's a bucket. 344P. M. Blue front. Again Karen read the order. Fingers hovering like she might peel. She didn't. She took a photo and left. Restraint is still evidence. 405P. M. Voicemail from Sheriff Order posted. No contact yet. We'll try Mayor Saturday. The serial note was for something. 440P. M. While pages printed. Small injustices floated up. Like Lint Jason borrowing my Kroger badge for a fake ID. Dad saying boys will be boys when the Civic died, and I took the bus. Mom telling Mrs. Fielding. I was too sensitive after one clean tear at Grandma's funeral. These don't win cases. They harden will. 602P. M. Church lot. I didn't go in. I parked across and watched families drift out like geese. Karen hugged too long. Michael shook hands like he was running for something. Jason didn't show. A white sedan eased up. Deputy Alvarez stepped out with a folder. He waited for the last hymn to close the door. Then walked with the patience of gravity. Michael Pierce, he said. Voice that reaches the back pews. That's me. Michael said, squaring into pretend tall. You've been served. Alvarez held out the packet. Temporary restraining order. Hearing May 1. No entry. No leasing. No removal. Sign to acknowledge. Air thinned. People pretended to talk about weather. Karen slid in between like a bad extra. We decline. She said, you're not the named party on this packet. Alvarez said, calm as a forecast. Mr. Pierce. Michael hesitated. Then signed. His signature looked like a crack in glass. Alvarez left a second packet for Karen. A third for Jason. Have a good evening, he said. Like a dare to the sky. Michael scanned the lot for me and didn't find me. I watched from the shadow of a pine where teenagers text. Blue's collar warmed under my wrist. 812 P.M. Motel X. Ink finally flowed. I sealed the demand for accounting one to the house. 1. To Michael's work-certified slips like little tongues, I copied the sheriff's returns and stapled them to the order. Twins for everything. Paper likes company. Texts rolled in. Michael, this isn't over. Karen, you broke our family. Jason, you love attention more than blood. Screenshots. Folder texts. No replies. Silence is a full sentence. Tomorrow, insurance cancellation pending mailed to the bank. Code inspection door hanger. Tenant warnings by certified mail. And a quiet visit to the title office to flag the cloud again. Donuts for Reina and Alvarez, because gratitude runs on sugar. Today, judge signed. Sheriff posted. Church witnessed. One sheet on a door changed the route of a family. I don't plead. I execute. April 22. 2025. 806A. M. USPS on Broad the Flag sticks halfway. The bulletin board sells piano lessons and finds lost beagles. The line curled past glitter birthday cards. A kid rattled a Mentos tube like maracas. I balanced 2 certified letters on the scale. Slid on form 3,000. 800 like Band-Aids. Small wound. Fresh day, the man behind me sighed at the ceiling. Some people love drama. The clerk Janelle. Glitter nails. Pin reading. I can't fix your attitude didn't look up. Some people love proof. She said. Stomping. Next. Green cards tucked into my shoebox. Blue's collar tapped them once. Quite metronome. 902A. M. Motel 6 printer spat insurance cancellation. Pending Kathy had CC'd the bank. Highlighted line. Material misrepresentation occupancy. Policy cancels April 28 unless corrected. No caps. No exclamation points. Weather change. Stated calmly. 911A. M. Teresa texted bank. Received cancellation. Legal reviewing. Adler replied, expect notice of acceleration. Papers got a fuse. 1020A. M. Hardware store. I bought 2 motion floods. A garage padlock. AAA batteries. The cashier smelled like cedar shavings. Tag said, Huck. Raccoons, he asked. Family. I said, He nodded. Species recognized. 1103A. M. Maple Street. Porch light still buzzed at noon. Confused about its job. I walked the perimeter with notes, open gate latch loose, back frame soft, garage door tired. Screws you tighten before a storm. An old injustice floated up on its own age. 12. Kitchen table. Jason telling Grandma I'd lost $20. Dad's stare like a lie was a mirror. Mom's. She's dramatic. No yelling. Just a quiet that rearranges bones. I put it back in its file and kept walking. Noon. Mrs. Lopez waved a sandwich wrapped in paper towel. Mouthed eat. I held up celery like a promise. 1240P. M. Adler called. File partition by sale. Ask for a receiver to secure the place and catch any stray rent. Judge-like adult supervision. On it. 118P. M. Clerk's office. Reina lifted an eyebrow like we worked the same shift. I slid complaint for partition. Motion divided by appoint receiver. Proposed order tabs. Lined like paint swatches. Fee $135. Receipt thin and warm. Judge Marlowe pulls partitions. She said. He likes numbers. I count to breathe. 206P. M. Bank lot. Email hit notice of acceleration demand for payment in full. The line that matters. Because of insurance cancellation and clouded title, to pay the balance by May 5, or we pursue foreclosure. PDF. 3 pages. Tone parent done bargaining. I forwarded to Michael. Karen. Jason with subject, for your records. Set the phone face down. Ate a Cliff bar that tasted like sweet gravel. 240p. M. Code enforcement left a door hanger, courtesy inspection call, within 48 hours. Andre scribbled poshog, handrail, garage soft spot. The hanger wagged like a small flag that meant later. 310p. M. Next door ping update maple is a legal mess, do not pay. Not me. A neighbor. The internet. For once. A bucket. 327p. M. Title office. I filed notice of pendency of partition. Ellen. Nose ring. Red hair. Stamped and slid a copy. Shows on every search. She said. No clean sales. That's the point. 402p. M. The family thread warmed Karen. This is harassment. Jason dad will sue you. Michael come talk face to face like an adult. I sent all communication in writing. See attached. Attach the acceleration notice. The order. Send. Log. Breathe. 540p. M. Planet Fitness lot. I handed Caleb the almost tenant. A paper copy of the order. 20-something. Neat gym bag. Posture of someone lifting his own life. We almost gave cash. He said. Thanks. He glanced toward the house. That mom could sell air. She tried. I said. We shook hands like neighbors. 705p. M. Alvarez called. Receiver motion lands with Marlowe tomorrow. He said. If he signs, locks change. Utilities shift. Ledgers start. Emotion left when they sold blue for $0. I said. Not a metaphor. A fact. 811p. M. Motel. I laid out the day USPS receipts like tiny railroads. Cancellation letter. Acceleration notice. Partition receipt. Door hanger. Next door screenshot. Caleb's thank you, scribbled on a day pass. We're out, thanks. H. Blues collar on top. One click. Good sound. Voicemail, Michael. This is the last time I'm saying this. You don't tear down what a man builds. Saved Michael Man Builds. File names. Speak fluent judge. April 23. 2025. 904A. M. Judge Marlowe's courtroom. Oak. Old air. A clock that ticks like a metronome with opinions. He wore readers balanced on the end of his nose. Adler spoke in straight lines. Clouded title. Absent consent. Bank acceleration. Code issues. Michael and Karen sat 2 rows back. Matching frowns. Jason's hoodie read, no days off. Sleep said otherwise. Marlowe glanced over my tabs. Ms. Pierce. He said. Tidy file. Yes. Your Honor. Receivership is extraordinary. He mused. But so is a house eating itself. While adults argue, his pen pressed slow. Certain. Receiver appointed. Authority to secure. Inventory. Maintain. Report due 14 days. Tampering equals contempt. Karen made a kettle sound. Michael's mouth went flat. Jason muttered. What a joke. The court reporter didn't smile. Her eyes almost did. Outside. Adler handed me the stamped order. Name is Baines. He said. Retired Navy. Talks and invoices. Karen slid to my shoulder like weather. My mother's china. My quilt. Schedule it with the receiver. Adler said. List items. Cameras on. You're cruel. She told me. I'm exact. I said. I can sleep on exact 1, 1, 2, 2, A. M. Bine called. Voice like gravel. On my way. 2 trucks. Locksmith. Videographer. Attend or don't. I'll be there. Noon. Maple Street looked like a tidy emergency. Baines stepped from a white pickup in a cap USN Ret. One hard handshake. Locks change. Inventory tags. Utilities to trust account. Garage gets a padlock. He nodded at my no trespass. We keep it. I admina. Gus, my locksmith arrived like good déjà vu. He nodded to Baines. Then to me, let's keep this clean. The drill thrum felt like a steady heart. Climax wasn't loud. It was signatures and stickers. Baines moved room to room with a camera and a lapel mic. Sofa. Tan. Moderate wear. 6-chair table. Veneer chip. Box Christmas. Contents unknown. Sticker numbers matched ledger lines. He snapped meter photos. Noted pork sack. Logged the garage soft spot. Shut off the ice maker. Wrapped a dripping joint with Teflon tape like a bandage. Michael rolled up mid-process and planted himself on the curb like a stump that missed its tree. You can't keep me from my house, he said to the air. He wasn't speaking to a person. He was arguing with an order. Bain didn't look up. Receiver in possession, he said. Email to schedule personal property pickups. Not today. I built that porch. Michael said. The tone menus on Legend. It's sagging, Baines said. Neutral, as weather. He wagged the camera. And now it's recorded. Karen stared at me. My quilts will mildew. Make a list, I said, handing her Baines's card. Bring boxes. The camera runs. Jason arrived late. Hood up. He pinged a pebble off the curb. You happy? You broke them. They made the choices. I said. I wrote them down. 340 p.m. Final lock clicked. Baines gave me receiver's entry with a fresh case stamp. Utilities shift tonight. Any entry triggers police. He handed Michael and Karen a one-pager access protocol. Email only. No walk-ups. He stuck his own receiver and control sign next to mine. Trucks pulled away. The house sat between us like a patient, finally under competent care. 4:12 p.m. I stood at the sidewalk and just looked. When someone names a sag and promises to fix it, the sag already looks smaller. Phone buzzed 3 levers. Teresa acceleration notice delivered. Kathy insurance cancels at midnight. Under inspection Friday TA. M. I returned to the car. The shoebox waited. Collar on top. I clicked it once and closed the lid. Tomorrow. Notice of partition mails to every address they've ever claimed. Tomorrow. Baines drops his first invoice, and Michael learns contempt. Isn't just a feeling? Tomorrow. I'll ask for a sale date. Today. The ground under them moved. I don't shout. I set the terms. May 29. 2025. 841 a.m. Title office on Elm. The lobby with the glass candy dish of butterscotch and pens. Nobody steals on purpose. A printer hummed somewhere behind the wall. Lawn crews thumped tailgates outside. A Keurig sighed into paper cups inside. Thursday. Regular as a receipt. The small wound showed up early. Karen brushed past me in the hall and whispered, You were always dramatic. Blue was just a dog. She made it sound like a kind thing. Like rain that only gets floors wet? Good morning. I told the room. I sat. The shoebox sat on my lap. Blue's collar was on top. Cool buckle against my wrist. 902 a.m. Closing room B. Baines. The receiver had set chairs, like a battlefield you win with folders. Adler opened a clean stack of papers in front of me. Michael and Karen came in together. Taut as wire. Jason slid in last in his no days off hoodie. Irone pre-installed. The closer. Maya. Carried in 3 piles. Seller's packet. Receiver disbursement. Payoff letter. She said. Setting them down like plates. Questions at the end. Please. Adler spoke in plain math. Sale price $231. Ling ling ling. Payoff to bank on the accelerated line, $86. Sube. Receiver fees $4. 980. Locksmith and security $612. Code repairs on dollar. 350. City fines $450. Taxes and closing costs $8. 760. Net $128. 448. He kept going. Steady as a metronome. Partition is 50/50. Offsets to Michael and Karen's share. For unauthorized draws, $7. Lambe. Ms. Pierce's share unaffected. Michael's jaw chewed on a word he didn't use. You're bleeding us. Receipts bled you. Adler said. We added them up? Karen reached for a pen she didn't need. We raised you, she said. Like the walls needed context. You raised Jason. I said. Calm. You contained me. Jason leaned close. Spot me $2,000 till Friday. He murmured. I'll Venmo it back. I wrote on my legal pad. Vamu doesn't cure court. Then set the pen down where he could see it and not misread. 921A. M. Teresa from the bank appeared on a laptop tile. Rita from compliance filled the square next to her. We'll confirm payoff on signature. Rita said. Lien release files within 72 hours. Thank you. I said. Thank the documents. She said, almost smiling. We understood each other's dialect now. Baines cleared his throat. Keys. He slid a small envelope across maple final. 2 brass keys. 1 round. 1 square. He logged the transfer 928A. M. HB divided by DB in block letters. Lil you're satisfied. Kata blinked. Where are ours? Not yours anymore. Baines said. Not unkind. Just aligned with the world. A notary slid a form to Michael. Sign and print. He held the pen like it might accuse him. He signed anyway. Letters like a crack across glass. We reached the checks. Maya counted aloud, so nobody had to ask twice. 1 to First County Bank. 1 to Receiver Trust. 1 to City of Maple Ridge. 1 to Hannah Pierce. $71. 1 to Michael and Karen Pierce, shaved down for the $7. 200 offset. The fines. The past due water bill, $624. And a storage lien, $312. Baines unearthed. The numbers stopped arguing and sat where math told them to sit. Karen took their check like longer fingers could lengthen it. They couldn't. Jason tried again. Smaller? Just until Friday. Friday doesn't fix yesterday. I said, find work. Not cruelty. A forecast. 1005A. M. Outside. The sun hit the hood of my rental like a symbol. Mrs. Lopez stood by the curb with a Tupperware and a plastic fork taped to the lid. I made you green beans, she said, and a little potato salad. But Dijon this time. We learn. She glanced at the shoebox and softened. You did this quiet. I had help. Help finds the houses that leave the porch light on, she said, and crossed back to her side like a parade of 1. 1112A. M. Mayor parking lot. Michael at Western Union. Reading fees. Karen on a bench with glossy brochures, $289 divided by week. No, credit check. Pet friendly with an asterisk. Jason near the sliding doors. Watching his phone, like it might deliver a miracle if he stared hard enough. I didn't walk over. Revenge that works doesn't need witnesses. It needs a ledger and cool hands. 1145A. M. The shelter on Ridge. I handed Miss O. Pruitt a cashier's check $10. 000 to Blues Trust. We'll fund prosecutions and vet bills, she said. We'll name the intake room Blue. A small mutt slept there already. Freckled nose. Ears too big for his head. The card read Morris. I knelt. He opened one eye and decided I wasn't a problem. I clicked Blue's collar on Cha. then held it to his neck like a prayer that doesn't ask for anything. 1, 2, 3, 0p. M. I signed a lease for a one-bedroom above a bakery that burns cinnamon on Saturdays. Email 040 a month. Laundry in the basement, tokens in a coffee mug by the door. The key felt heavy in my palm. Keys that belong to you always do. Afternoon was the errand victory lap. Raina got donuts with a sticky note. For options, Carla got a coffee. Teresa got a card that said, "Thank you" in my handwriting, which looked steadier than last year. Alvarez got a 6-pack of root beer with a note. For patience, Gus got paid again, and a photo of his deadbolt. Past tense and holding 405p. M. Andre emailed a photo, the porch braced. The dip gone. Complied. The file read. I hadn't realized how much I'd been standing on a slant until the picture stood level. 518p. M. Michael texted you win. Winning wasn't the word I'd use. I saved the message as Michael you win and let it join the others that don't argue when you quote them. 602p. M. Maple's sidewalk. One last time. The new buyers, Caleb from Planet Fitness and the sticker bottle woman. Lena walked up with a realtor. Their dog was a rescue with 3 legs and a pink harness and a face that makes strangers kneel. The realtor held a key with a tiny plastic house on the ring. Caleb caught my eye and lifted it like a small toast. I raised a hand and stepped back. I didn't need to walk in to know the house was different. Houses learn things when you tell the truth inside them. 740p. M. New apartment. The shoebox went on the kitchen table. I took out the collar. I didn't hang it on a wall or bury it in a drawer. I set it in the center. The way people set flowers when they're ready for guests. The buckle clicked once. The room held the sound and let it land. I opened notes and wrote a list that didn't start with Maple for the first time in months. Rug blue. Snake plant forgives. Call Mrs. Lopez Sunday. Email Ms. Pruitt about Saturdays. Quiet. A truck downshifted outside. Long and low. No motion alerts lit up my phone. No unknown numbers tried their luck. Silence. Finally. Followed instructions. I washed 2 plates I hadn't used. I lay on a floor that belonged to me. 11 small injustices added up to one big correction. It didn't feel like triumph. It felt square. Like a picture finally straight on a wall. I slid my check into the folder and closed it. I don't love paper. I respect it. It remembers better than people do. The window held a slice of street lamp glow. The collar caught it and went a steady blue, stubborn, exact. Not needing anyone to clap. They taught me fear. I learned records. They taught me to hush. I learned to log. They taught me to knock. I learned procedures. When it was time to speak, I didn't argue. I raised the deed. Story 2. This whole circus started on a Saturday morning when I was just trying to calmly drink coffee from my favorite mug. My name is Arena. I'm 32. And I'll tell you right away. My family is quite a bunch. Because of whom all this mess started. My parents are already over 50. And they are the ones who think that they know better how I should live. Control is their middle name. And then there's my younger sister, Kimberly. Archelu. Married for 6 months. The family's favorite. By the way, you know, those who can't do anything bad from birth. And only one thing is expected of older daughters to silently fork out when relatives come calling. 3 years ago, I bought a small house in Aspen. Nothing special. Just an ordinary house in the mountains. But it's mine. I loved this place. Even though I went there less often than I wanted. Work in New York eats up all my time. But when I managed to get away, it was a real escape from all this fuss. So, that Saturday morning, the phone rang. Michael, my realtor who helped me buy the house, appeared on the screen. A great guy. By the way, we had an agreement that if I decided to sell, he would be the first to know. Arena. Hi. He sounded a bit confused. Listen, I need to ask you something. Are you going to sell your house in Aspen? I just saw it on Zillow and thought. We agreed. I almost choked on my coffee. What? Mike. What are you talking about? I'm not selling anything. That's weird. He drawled. The ad has been up for a week now. All the details about your house are identical. There's even a contact number, but it's not yours. I'm all gutted. Can you send me the link? Sure. And by the way, if you'd decided to sell, I already have an interested client. A guy saw the ad and called me. I manage a lot of properties in that area. After the call, I sat and stared at my phone, waiting for the link. When I opened it, I almost threw up. My house was right there. Photos I didn't take. A description down to the last detail. But the most damning thing was that my mother was listed in the contacts with her phone number. I didn't even think twice. I immediately dialed my parents. Hi, sweetheart. My mother's voice was sickeningly sweet. The way it is when she knows she's in trouble. Mom, what the hell is going on with the ad for my house? A pause. Then she spoke in a calm tone, as if she were talking about going shopping. Did you see? Yeah. We posted it. Are you kidding? It's my house. Arena. We had to do something. You would never agree to sell it yourself. I was already pacing around my apartment. Of course I wouldn't. It's my property. You can't just decide to sell someone else's house. Look. Mom switched to the tone she usually used when she was telling the truth. Kim just got married. Now she's pregnant. They need their own place. The money for your house is an ideal down payment on a nice apartment. I don't care what Kim needs. I barked. It's not up to you to decide. Then my father took the phone. I heard them whispering. Arena. You need to think about your family. He said. Remember, we asked you to help with Kimberly's wedding. We needed $11. Ling ling ling. And you only gave $1. eBay. A good sister would have paid for everything. May have dropped. I gave as much as I could. And now you want to steal my house. It's not theft. Mom snatched the phone back. We are a family. Nick is short on money. And you hardly use the house. We are there more often than you. It doesn't matter. It is still mine. Arena. Be reasonable. Your sister is pregnant and needs help. Family is sacred. We help each other. I tried to stay calm. Look, even if you wanted to pull this off, you couldn't sell my house without my signature. Mom laughed. Out loud. As if I'd said something endearingly naive. Oh. Honey. We've thought of everything. What do you mean? We have copies of all your documents. Your social security card. Signature samples. We've been handling your paperwork for years. Remember, we've been drawing up all sorts of power of attorney forms. It's not a problem at all. My father added, we've been planning this for a long time. Arena. We know what we're doing. I hung up. After the conversation, I just sat there for a few minutes, staring at the wall. My hands were shaking. I kept going over their words in my head. Copies of documents, signature samples, the plan to forge papers and sell my house. My birth parents were planning to commit fraud against me, and they talked about it so casually, as if they were discussing a shopping list. The longer I thought about it, the more I got worked up. It was so typical of them. They always treated me like a cash cow. We need money for Kim's wedding, call Arena. We can't pay the mortgage. Arena will sort it out. And I always figured it out. Because I thought that's what good daughters should do. But this was different. They didn't ask for help. They stole. And the worst thing was their brazen confidence. As if they knew I'd whine for a couple of days and then give in. Because family is sacred and all that other manipulative nonsense they fed me for years. They are probably sitting there right now, rubbing their hands, rejoicing at how cleverly they managed everything. They think I'll cry and then calm down. I won't call the police. I won't go to court. What can I do? They're my parents. And then it dawned on me if they are so eager to sell my house. Well, let's have a race. Only I'll be the winner. I immediately called Michael back. Hi. It's Arena again. About that buyer you were talking about? How serious is he? Very serious. He's been looking for exactly the same option as yours for months. Have you decided to sell? Yes. And I need to do it fast. Very fast. Michael was clearly surprised at how fast we were talking. As fast as legally possible? If your buyer is ready for a quick deal, I'll knock $33, 000 off the asking price, and pay you a premium for the speed, an extra commission, if we can get it done in a week. If he's really interested and has his own funds, no mortgage. We can get to the recorder's office by next Friday. Perfect. Go for it. I felt a strange rush of adrenaline as I hung up. For the first time in many years, I did not dance to the family's tune, but acted on my own. But that was only the beginning. While I was waiting for news from the buyer, I logged into Bank of America online and began to put things in order. First, I revoked all powers of attorney and blocked my parents' access to my accounts. Yes, I gave them access several years ago when my father had health problems and needed help with payments. Obviously, it was a mistake. Then I did what I had been thinking about for months but hadn't dared to do. I canceled the auto payments on their mortgage. I had been paying for them for 2 years, $660 a month because they were having difficulties. Well, let's see how difficult it will be for them when they have to fork out money themselves. Michael called back on Sunday morning with great news. The buyer is ready to act quickly. It turned out to be Police Sergeant Andrew Stevens. He was looking for a quiet place in the mountains. Cash in hand. We can make a deal by Thursday if you collect all the documents, said Michael. Great. Let's go. The next days flew by in a rush. Documents, checks, calls. But by Thursday, everything was ready. The house was sold. The money was in the account. I could finally breathe freely. The timing was perfect. I had been struggling to pay my $1.320 mortgage for the last few months. This money allowed me to pay off the loan in full, and there was some left over. For the first time in many years, I didn't have to count every penny until payday. But the best part was, my family had no idea what I had pulled off. I didn't tell anyone about the sale. They just sat and waited for them to realize that their brilliant scam had gone down the drain. I admit, somewhere deep inside I felt a twinge of guilt. After all, they were my parents. And Kim was pregnant. She probably needed help. But then I remembered how my mother laughed when she told me about her plans to forge my signature. And the feeling of guilt evaporated instantly. They had made their choice to treat me like an ATM. Not a daughter. They decided to fleece me instead of asking for help. Now let them pay for it. 2 weeks passed. Silence. I was already starting to think that maybe they had found another way to get money for Kim or had simply given up on the whole idea. To be honest, I was even disappointed. I was so expecting their reaction when they found out what I had done. But then on Tuesday morning, the phone exploded. First Mom. Then Dad. Then Kimberly. Then Mom again. At first, I sent them all to voicemail. But they wouldn't stop. Finally, I answered when Mom called for the 4th time. Arena. What's going on? There's panic in her voice. I was at the house with the buyers yesterday. And there were new locks everywhere. Did you change the locks? I spoke calmly and evenly. I sold the house. Mom. A long silence. Then she laughed. But not in a cheerful way. But in that hysterical way that people use to deny the obvious. Very funny. Arena. Now seriously. What about the locks? The buyers are nervous. It complicates everything. I'm not kidding. I sold my house last week. The new owners installed new locks. If you have any questions about real estate, contact them. The house is no longer mine. And hung up. I thought that would be the end of it. How wrong I was. The phone immediately rang again. This time it was Kimberly. I waited for a few rings before answering. I had no desire to listen to her hysterics. But I was curious what she would say. Arena. What the hell is going on? Her voice was full of panic. Mom just called in tears. Talking about new locks. What nonsense. The house is sold. Kim. Sold it last week. This is not funny. We planned everything for months. I've already looked at the apartment. Picked out the furniture. Even hired a designer for the interior. You can't just go and sell the house. I almost laughed. The audacity was just off the charts. I can sell my house whenever I want. It didn't belong to you. But we need this money. I'm pregnant. Arena. We're trying to start a family. Then maybe you and your husband should find a job that will allow you to support a family. You're selfish. Just give your mother the keys to the new locks so she can show the house to buyers. We'll sort it all out. I won't give you any keys. Kim, the house belongs to other people now. Deal with your own lives. And hung up again. The next few days were quiet. I was already starting to think that they had finally gotten it and would leave me alone. I should have known them better. On Monday morning, Michael called. His voice was awkward. Arena, I didn't want to bother you, but the new owner of your former home called me. Sergeant Stevens. He said that someone tried to break into the house over the weekend. The alarm went off. Scared them off. But the security cameras recorded everything. They found out who it was. Michael was silent. Yes. Arena. It was your father. The police detained him. I sat there for a minute, trying to process what I had heard. My father had actually tried to break into the house. Even after I told him the house was sold, even after my mother had seen the new locks herself. He still went and tried to get in. Sergeant Stevens asked me to tell you what happened. Michael continued. He's understanding. It's a family matter after all. But from a legal point of view, your father was trying to get into a police officer's house. About 5 minutes after the conversation, the phone rang again. Father's voice was agitated. Arena. You need to call the police right now and explain this misunderstanding. What misunderstanding? Tell them that I was trying to get into my daughter's house. That you always allowed me access there. I couldn't believe my ears. Dad. I told you. The house is sold. Why were you trying to break in? We didn't think you were serious. We thought you were just freaking out and decided to scare us by changing the locks. But I was serious. And now you're in trouble for trying to break into someone else's property. Arena. Please just call them and clear things up. No. Dad. You got yourself into this. Then he started yelling, calling me selfish and ungrateful. But I just hung up. I was tired of listening to their manipulations and attempts to play on my pity. The next day, I saw news on the local Facebook community page. A local resident was detained while trying to break into the house of a police sergeant. They didn't give his name, but they wrote that the suspect behaved aggressively during the arrest, insulted the officers. They opened a case for criminal trespass and disorderly conduct. The journalist mentioned that he faces up to 6 months. 6 months for trying to steal my house. A week later, my mother called, crying, even before saying hello. Arena. Please. We need your help. We need money for a lawyer for your father. My father is to blame himself. No. It's all your fault. If you hadn't sold the house, none of this would have happened. I started laughing. My fault. I sold my property so you wouldn't steal it. And somehow I'm the bad guy here. You destroyed the family. Arena. Your father can go to jail. Your pregnant sister can't buy an apartment. We can't pay the mortgage because you stopped helping us. You robbed us of our future. I robbed you. You literally planned to forge my signature and steal my house. We are a family. A family helps each other. A family doesn't steal from each other. Mom, you are an ungrateful daughter after everything we have done for you. Everything you have done for me besides, expecting me to pay for everything while you plan to rip me off. She had no answer for that. She just kept crying and calling me selfish and heartless. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. I said, don't call me anymore. I hung up and blocked all their numbers. Mom? Dad? Kim, everyone is blocked. I've had enough. A month later, Aunt Sarah, Mom's sister, called. We always got along well. She usually doesn't get involved in family squabbles. So I was surprised by her call. Arena. I just wanted to tell you what's going on with your parents and sister. Kim and Nick moved in with their parents. They refinanced the house and transferred it to Kim so as not to lose it. Now she and her husband pay the mortgage. I had to admit, it was smart and rather cunning on Kim's part. Her parents always treated her like a helpless princess. But apparently she was much more calculating than it seemed. What about Dad's trial? He got a suspended sentence of 6 months and a fine for disorderly conduct. He won't go to prison. But he must check in with his probation officer regularly. And when the manager at Target found out about the arrest, he fired him. My father lost his job as a security guard at the shopping center. In a way, it was even worse than prison. At his age, finding another job won't be easy. Aunt Sarah continued. In addition, they had to borrow from all their relatives for a lawyer, and then spent all their retirement savings to pay off the debts. Now they've practically wiped out their savings. Well, I said, that's what happens when you try to steal from people. Aunt Sarah was silent for a second. Arena, I'm not saying they did the right thing, but they're still your parents. They stopped being my parents when they decided to forge my signature and steal my house. I understand why you're angry, but they don't seem to understand. After the conversation, I felt a strange mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Satisfaction that justice had been served, but also sadness. I don't have a family anymore. Although what kind of family was there in the first place? It's been 7 months since I blocked my relatives' numbers. And, honestly, I've never felt better. I know it sounds harsh, but it's true. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not constantly stressed about money and wondering what kind of crisis my family will throw at me next. The money from selling the house was a turning point. I paid off my mortgage completely, freeing up $1, $320 a month, plus $660 that I no longer pay for my parents' mortgage. Suddenly, I had almost $2. 0 inches spare money every month. I forgot what it was like to have something left over after paying the bills. I saved most of it, but I decided to treat myself. I drove a beat-up Honda Civic for 8 years. It was already on its last legs. I went to the Toyota dealership and bought a 2-year-old Camry. Nothing outrageous, but reliable and pleasant. It's a strange feeling to walk into a dealership and afford what you want, rather than grabbing the cheapest option. But the main thing is peace of mind. I didn't realize how much energy was spent on family dramas until they disappeared. No more late-night calls about urgent situations that for some reason always require money. No attempts to make me feel guilty for being selfish and not being able to help. No need to tiptoe around. Afraid of upsetting someone, I started seeing a therapist. It really helps. My therapist, Dr. Alan Taylor, helped me understand how toxic the relationship in the family was. It turns out that there is a term for what they did to me, financial abuse. From a young age, I was taught to believe that my value as a family member was measured by the amount of money I gave them. You weren't their daughter? Dr. Taylor said during one of the sessions. You were the ATM who occasionally showed up at family dinners. It was painful to hear, but it was true. Come to think of it, in almost every conversation I've had with my parents in recent years, they've asked for money, help with the mortgage, with car repairs, with Kim's wedding, with medical bills. And when I couldn't give as much as they wanted, I was selfish and ungrateful. Therapy also helped me realize that what they did to the house wasn't just wrong, it was criminal. They were planning fraud, forgery, and theft. And they acted like I was unreasonable for being upset. Normal families don't steal from each other. Normal families don't forge signatures. Normal families don't try to break into houses that don't belong to them. Aunt Sarah calls sometimes, tells me the news. She doesn't pressure me to make peace with my family, and I appreciate that. She just keeps me informed in case I want to know. My father's suspended sentence ended last month, but he still hasn't found a job. They don't hire someone with a criminal record as a security guard, and he doesn't know how to do anything else. My mother picks up extra shifts at Walmart, but it's not enough to cover all the expenses. Kim had a daughter. Part of me was upset when I found out. I'm an aunt now, and I'll probably never see my niece again. But then I reminded myself, Kim made her choice when she decided to help rob me. Actions have consequences. The most interesting thing is that Kim and Nick seem to have problems. It turns out that living with your wife's parents and raising a newborn is stressful. Who would have thought? Aunt Sarah says Kim complains that she feels trapped in the house with her parents. And Nick talks about moving. But the house is now Kim's, and her parents have nowhere else to live. Everything is complicated. I admit, some part of me feels satisfied. They were so sure that stealing my house would solve all their problems. Kim would get the apartment of her dreams. Her parents would be generous grandparents. And I would swallow it quietly. As always. Instead, Kim is trapped in the house with her parents and a screaming baby. My father lost his job and almost went to jail. They wiped out their savings. And I have no debt. I have a nice car. And I'm saving enough to take a proper vacation next year. Sometimes I wonder if I should feel guilty about how things turned out. After all, they're my parents and my sister. But then I remember how they laughed when they talked about their plans to forge my signature, how they were sure that I would give in and allow myself to be robbed. How for years they treated me like a bank account, not a person. No, I don't feel guilty. I feel free. I'm thinking about buying another house eventually. Not in the mountains, but something closer to work. Maybe a house in the suburbs with a yard. I always wanted to try growing my own vegetables, but I couldn't afford a house with land before. It's funny how life has changed. 6 months ago, I was constantly stressed, barely making ends meet, drowning in family dramas. Now I plan a garden and a vacation. I sleep better, eat better, and look forward to the weekend with joy, not with fear of what kind of crisis will be thrown at me this time. My colleagues have noticed the changes too. Jenny recently said that I look happier and calmer. When asked what had changed, I simply answered, I had simplified my life by getting rid of toxic relationships. I didn't go into details. This is a wild story. Who would believe it? The hardest thing is with holidays. I used to be afraid of them. They meant spending money on gifts for people who were never grateful. Now they are just empty. I celebrated my birthday alone this year. It was not bad. But Christmas was harder. In the end, I went to volunteer at the soup kitchen. It helped me feel better. I know many will say, you need to try to make peace with the family, especially now that there's a child. But they have not learned anything. Judging by Aunt Sarah's stories, I am still a villain to them. Still an ungrateful daughter who once did not allow her house to be stolen, until they admit their mistake. There is no point in restoring anything. Besides, I like my current life. I like being in control of my money, not worrying about what the family will demand next time, planning my own future, and not constantly getting others out of problems they created for themselves. I breathe deeply and freely. Akieter head. Eklina budget. And this is probably the best thing that has ever happened to me. Story 3. Oh, we didn't calculate. Why did your parents travel so long? The mother-in-law grinned, pointing at the empty dishes. They ate everything I cooked for my parents with a trick. I smiled and took out my phone. 20 minutes later, the DoorDash driver brought the order, which made my husband's eye twitch. And before we continue, right, from which state you are watching this video and how old you are. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Enjoy listening. Friday evening enveloped Denver in a cool autumn haze. The small but cozy kitchen of a 2-bedroom apartment was filled with the aromas of roasted turkey with cranberries, sage, and something sweet. Vanilla. Katie, a 30-year-old woman with a tired but happy smile, was taking her signature honey cake out of the oven. Today was a special day. Her parents' 35th wedding anniversary. She wanted to give them a real celebration. A small, homey one, but filled with warmth and love. She looked around the table set in the living room. A crisp white tablecloth. New plates. Crystal glasses that she and Dave had bought for their first wedding anniversary. There were already several salads on the table, charcuterie, and a bowl of homemade pickled vegetables. Dad's weakness. Everything had to be perfect. Katie worked as a remote social media manager. Her income wasn't very big, but stable, and she could afford to spend money on a nice dinner for her closest people. She remembered how 5 years ago, when she and Dave had just gotten married, he was completely different. Attentive, caring, always putting her interests first. He admired her culinary talents, helped around the house, and proudly introduced her to his friends. This is my Katie. Their apartment, bought with a mortgage, with her parents putting up most of the down payment, seemed like paradise to them. But over time, something changed. A quiet, unnoticeable poison began to poison their relationship. And the name of this poison was Linda, his mother. The door to the apartment opened, and Dave appeared on the threshold. He looked tired after a working week at his logistics company. Hello, sweetheart. Wow. How it smells. He came up and kissed her on the top of her head. Mine have already arrived. Katie tensed up. Mine. That's what he always called his mother and younger sister Stephanie. No. They have to come with my parents at 7. That's what we agreed on. Dave looked away guiltily. Yeah. I know. But here's the thing. Mom called and said she and Stephanie were already nearby. They wanted to come earlier. To help you. But you know, they're worried that you can't handle it alone. Katie's insides went cold. To help. She knew perfectly well what this help meant. This meant total control. Unsolicited advice and criticism of everything she did. Linda, a powerful woman and former office manager, believed that only she knew how things should be done. And 25-year-old Stephanie, who had not worked until now and lived off her mother and brother, simply used any excuse to eat well and get another portion of attention. Dave, I've almost cooked everything, Katie said, trying to remain calm. I don't need help. I wanted us all to sit down at the table together. Katie, what are you starting? A familiar note of irritation appeared in his voice. These are my mother and sister. They just want the best. Is it really that hard to be patient? They are not strangers. He said this and went into the room to change, leaving her alone with this unpleasant premonition. Katie looked at the laid table, at the turkey cooling on the plate, at the perfect layers of her cake, and she suddenly felt so bitter. This evening, which she had so carefully planned for her parents, was in danger of turning into another performance for her mother-in-law. There was a knock at the door. It was only 6 o'clock. An hour before the agreed time, Katie opened the door, and on the threshold, as expected, stood Linda and Stephanie. Oh. Katie. Hi. We decided to come early, the mother-in-law sang, unceremoniously entering the apartment. We thought you might need some help. Because you're all alone and can't keep track of everything. Stephanie silently slipped in after her mother, casting a quick, appraising glance at Katie. It smells so delicious, she said, heading straight for the kitchen. I'm so hungry. I haven't eaten anything since morning. Katie closed the door, feeling a small but very annoying alarm bell ringing inside her. This evening promised to be very, very long. Linda, without taking off her elegant coat, walked into the living room and inspected the table. Herkenhase, accustomed to looking for errors in spreadsheets, now scanned the table setting. The tablecloth is wrinkled, she stated, running her finger along a barely noticeable crease. It should have been ironed. Katie, the first impression is the most important. It's clean. Just out of the closet. Katie quietly objected. Clean. But not perfect. The mother-in-law cut it off, finally taking off her coat and hanging it on a chair. And not in the hallway closet. Meanwhile, Stephanie was already busy in the kitchen. Katie came in and saw her cutting herself a solid piece of still warm honey cake. Stefania, this is for everyone's dessert. Katie begun. Oh. Come on. She waved it off, sending the piece into her mouth. I'll just try it. It's sweet. But Mom bakes better. Her cakes are more moist. Katie clenched her fists. It seemed that every compliment in this house had to be accompanied by a jab. She silently took out another plate to transfer the cake and put it in the refrigerator, away from hungry hands. Dave came out of the room already dressed in casual clothes. Seeing his mother and sister, he beamed. Oh. Girls. You're already here. Good for you for coming to help. To help eat everything before the guests arrive. Katie corrected herself mentally, but said nothing out loud. Of course. My son. Linda came up and straightened his shirt collar. Like a little boy. Who? If not us. Your wife is completely overwhelmed. Poor thing. She even made the Caesar salad wrong. Katie looked at her in surprise. What's wrong with it? The croutons are store-bought. The mother-in-law said, knowingly, looking into the salad bowl. But you have to make them yourself from sourdough bread, rubbed with garlic. The taste is completely different. Katie felt her patience starting to wear thin. She spent half a day cooking, put her whole soul into this dinner. And in response, she received only criticism. She looked at Dave, seeking support, but he only smiled guiltily and shrugged, as if to say, "You know, Mom." Yes? She knew. Linda never missed an opportunity to demonstrate her superiority, especially in cooking. This was her way of showing that Katie was a bad housewife, and, therefore, a bad wife to her precious son. The tension grew. Stefania, having eaten the cake, switched to appetizers. She walked around the table, tasting. Here she pinched off a piece of roasted beef. Here she ate a couple of crackers with cream cheese. "Katie, is the cheese real brie?" she asked loudly, sending another cracker into her mouth. "The real thing," Katie said through her teeth. "There are so many fakes now," Linda said with a sigh. "You have to know how to choose. I can always tell by the packaging whether cheese is good or not." She came up to the table, took one of the crackers, carefully examined it in the light, and said with an expert air, "It's small, but you can eat it." Katie felt as if she were under a microscope. Every step she took, every dish was subjected to careful analysis and immediate devaluation. She tried to lead them away from the living room. "Maybe we should go to the kitchen and have some coffee before my parents arrive." Why, Stephanie was surprised. "Everything is so nice here. And anyway, I'm hungry. When is dinner already?" "Dinner when my parents arrive," Katie said firmly. "We expect them at 7. "Oh, that's still a long time," Stephanie said, and without hesitation took a large piece of roast turkey from the plate. At that moment, Katie realized that she was losing the battle. They weren't going to wait. They came here to eat, and it was absolutely clear to her that by the time her parents arrived, there might be nothing left of this festive table. She looked at Dave again. He was sitting on the sofa, engrossed in a discussion with his mother, pretending not to notice how his sister was methodically destroying the holiday dinner. Katie went out onto the balcony to get some fresh air. Her head was buzzing from the tension. She looked at her watch. It was only 6:30. Another half hour of this hell. She remembered her conversation with her friend Amy last week. "Amy," after listening to Katie's latest complaint about her mother-in-law, said Katie, "as long as you remain silent and endure, they will walk all over you more and more. Your Dave is a mama's boy. He will never change unless you yourself start setting boundaries." Then Katie waved it off, saying that she didn't want a scene. Now she understood that Amy was right. A scene was inevitable. The only question was whether she would have enough strength to endure it. Exactly at 6:47 the phone rang. It was Katie's mother. "Katie, my daughter." "Hello?" Valerie's voice sounded guilty. "Please forgive us. We are a little late. There was a terrible accident on I-25. Everything is at a standstill. I don't think we'll get there for at least an hour." "Mom, it's okay," Katie answered as cheerfully as she could, although everything inside her was sinking. "We're waiting for you. The main thing is, don't worry." She hung up, and her heart skipped a beat. Another hour. For an hour, her dinner would be in danger of being completely destroyed. She returned to the living room, where Dave was just retelling the contents of the telephone conversation to his mother and sister. In short, they were stuck in traffic. They'll be here in about 40 minutes. Maybe an hour. Linda's face lit up. "Well, that's great," she exclaimed. "We're sitting here hungry, drooling. Katie, what are you waiting for? Come on. Bring something hot." "Why should it cool down for nothing?" Katie froze. "But I wanted us all to sit down together." "Oh, what's the difference?" Stephanie waved her hand. "Having already managed to finish half of the potato salad, your parents will come. We'll warm it up for them. They won't fall apart. And we want to eat now." Dave, hearing this, looked at Katie pleadingly. "Katie, come on. Let's have dinner. They're hungry," he said. "They. Not us?" As if he was with them and she was apart. And Katie realized that this was the point of no return. The trigger had been pulled. She could no longer and did not want to fight for this dinner. Something had broken inside her. The fatigue and resentment that had been building up for years suddenly piled up at once, depriving her of the will to resist. "Okay," she said dully. "Whatever you say." She went into the kitchen, took the turkey out of the oven, where it had been warming up all this time, and carried it out into the living room. What happened next was like a scene from a movie about a plague of locusts. Linda, like an experienced commander, took upon herself the task of carving the bird. She cut off the most delicious pieces, legs and breast, and put them on Dave and Stephanie's plates. She took a wing for herself. Katie got nothing. "Oh, you didn't get enough," she stated, seeing her daughter-in-law's empty plate. "Oh, it's okay. You're on a diet. It's good for you." Dave, chewing the turkey, mumbled something in agreement. Stephanie ate quickly, dropping pieces on the snow-white tablecloth. In 10 minutes, only gnawed bones remained from the luxurious turkey, roasted to a golden crust. Then they started on the side dishes. The stuffing and roasted vegetables disappeared just as quickly. The salads that were still left were mercilessly demolished. Katie sat at the table and silently watched this feast. She didn't eat. She couldn't get a bite down. She just watched as everything she had spent so much time and effort on was being destroyed before her eyes. She felt like a stranger, an extra servant who had prepared food for the masters and could now be dismissed. Memories flashed through her head. Here she is with Dave, still in their first year, sharing one candy bar between them, because there is no money left before payday. Here he gives her a bouquet of wildflowers, picked on the way. Here they dream of how they will buy a big house, and they will have a dog and 2 children. Where did all this go when her loving, caring Dave turned into this weak-willed, submissive mama's boy, who silently watches how his wife is humiliated? "And the cake?" asked Stephanie, pushing away the empty plate. "Shall we have cake?" "Of course we will." Linda supported. "We can't wait for your parents." "Really? It will spoil." Katie silently stood up and went to the kitchen for the cake. She carried it like a funeral wreath. A wreath for her dreams, for her family, for her love. She put the cake on the table. The mother-in-law and sister-in-law, armed with a knife and server, cut off huge pieces for themselves. Dave didn't refuse either. Delicious," said Linda with her mouth full, "but a bit dry. I would add more frosting." They ate almost the entire cake, leaving only pitiful crumbs and one small, forlorn piece on the plate. Katie sat and watched this carnage. Empty dishes, dirty plates, greasy stains on the tablecloth, and 3 well-fed, happy people. Her family. Suddenly, she felt a strange calm. The anger retreated, replaced by a cold, crystal clarity. She understood. This wasn't just a ruined dinner. This was a demonstration of her place in this family, and she decided she would no longer play by their rules. When only the last piece of cake remained, forlornly huddled on the edge of the dish, Stefania, without thinking twice, picked it up with a fork. "Well, so it doesn't go to waste." She giggled and sent it into her mouth. Katie silently rose from the table and began to collect the dirty dishes. Her movements were slow, mechanical, as if she were watching herself from the side. She stacked plates, glasses, forks, taking them to the kitchen. No one offered to help her. Dave, well-fed and relaxed, sprawled out on the sofa and turned on Netflix. Linda and Stephanie were lazily scrolling through Instagram. In the kitchen, hidden from their eyes, Katie leaned against the wall. She closed her eyes and tried to take a deep breath. There was not enough air. She felt as if she was locked in a small, stuffy box. She had to say something. Do something. But what? To make a scene. To scream. To cry. To accuse. She imagined this scene. Her tears. Their condescending smirks. And Dave's words, "Katie, why are you throwing a tantrum again? For no reason." No. This is not the solution. This will only be further confirmation in their eyes that she is an unbalanced hysteric. She turned on the tap and began to wash the dishes. The hot water burned her hands. But this physical pain distracted her from the mental pain. She washed the plates from which they ate her turkey, her salads, her cake. And with each plate, her determination grew stronger. Dave came into the kitchen. He came up from behind and awkwardly hugged her shoulders. Casey, why are you upset? His voice sounded conciliatory. Well, we ate it, and we ate it. So what? It's food. I'll buy more tomorrow. Katie turned around sharply, almost dropping her plate. Food, she asked in a low voice, so that they wouldn't hear in the living room. Do you think it's about the food? What else? He was genuinely surprised. It was about the fact, Dave, that it was dinner for my parents. I cooked it all day in honor of their anniversary. And you ate it all, not leaving a crumb. You have shown monstrous disrespect to me and my parents. Come on. He winced. What disrespect, Mom said. Your parents were late. It's not our fault that we were hungry. And anyway, they are our common parents now. What is there to divide? His words struck her with their cynical simplicity. He really didn't understand. Or didn't want to understand. Is it their fault that they got stuck in traffic? Katie hissed. You could have waited. Or at least left them something. Oh. Come on. Casey. It's not much. It's just food. You're becoming as petty as your friend Amy. Always making a big deal out of nothing. Mentioning Amy was the last straw. Don't you dare touch my friend. Her voice broke. Unlike your sister, she works and provides for herself, and doesn't live off her brother. And if we're talking about being petty, your family is capable of eating every last crumb, knowing that guests are expected in the house. Hey. He suddenly grabbed her by the elbow. Don't you dare talk about my mother and sister like that. Got it. His fingers dug painfully into her hand. Katie froze, looking at him with wide eyes. He had never allowed himself to do this before. Let go, she said quietly but firmly. It hurts. He unclenched his fingers, as if coming to his senses. Forgive me, he muttered. I didn't mean to. You just got me worked up. But Katie was no longer listening. She looked at the red marks his fingers had left on her hand and knew that another line had just been crossed. He hadn't just betrayed her. He had used force. She silently finished washing the dishes, dried her hands, and left the kitchen. The living room was still full of merriment. Stephanie was showing her mother something on TikTok, and they were both giggling. Katie walked past them without even looking at them. She picked up her purse and phone and went out into the hallway. Where are you going? Dave called out to her. For a walk? She answered without turning around. I need some fresh air. She left the apartment, letting the door close behind her. She stopped on the landing, leaning against the cold wall. Her heart was pounding. She took a few deep breaths. Calm down. Casey, calm down, she told herself. Don't let them see your tears. Don't let them win. It was at that moment that she made her decision. She would no longer be a victim. She would fight them on her own territory and by her own rules. She took out her phone and began to quickly search for something on DoorDash. A strange, cold smile appeared on her face. Half an hour later, Katie returned to the apartment. She was calm. Even too calm. There was not a shadow of upset on her face. She went into the living room, where her family continued to have fun. Our party girl is back, Linda noted sarcastically. Did you get enough fresh air? Yes. Casey nodded. Very refreshing. She sat down in a chair, took out her phone, and began to ostentatiously scroll through something on it. Dave looked at her suspiciously. Such calm, after the stormy scene in the kitchen, was unusual for him. Casey, is everything okay? He asked cautiously. Absolutely. She smiled at him with her sweetest smile. I realize that you were right. There is no need to make a tragedy out of food. The mother-in-law and sister-in-law exchanged glances. Such a quick capitulation played into their hands. That's good, Linda said peacefully. I wish it would be like that right away. Family is the most important thing. You need to be able to give in, Of course. Katie great. By the way, while I was out, I ordered some food on DoorDash. I think I'll have to put something on the table when my parents arrive. She said it so simply and naturally that Dave relaxed. He decided that Katie had cooled down and resigned herself. He didn't know that the storm was just beginning. At exactly 8 p.m., the doorbell rang. Katie went to open it. Her parents, Valerie and Robert, were standing on the threshold, tired after a long traffic jam. But with a bouquet of her favorite chrysanthemums and a large box of chocolates. Hello, daughter. Mom hugged her. Sorry it took so long. It's okay. Come in, Katya said, taking the flowers from her. Her father silently shook her hand and walked into the apartment. When they entered the living room, their smiles slowly slid off their faces. A depressing picture appeared before them. A table covered with dirty dishes, scraps, empty glasses, and 3 well-fed, relaxed people lazily watching TV. Good evening, Valerie said, confused. Oh, in-laws. Finally, Linda perked up, not even trying to get up from the sofa. We've been waiting for you. Come in. Sit down. Dave jumped up, bustled about, and began looking for a place for the guests. Robert, a man of few words but very observant, glanced around the table and slowly turned his eyes to his daughter. His gaze asked the question, what happened here? Katie just shook her head slightly, as if to say, I'll tell you later. We seem to have come at the wrong time, asked Valerie, looking at the empty dishes. Have you had dinner already? And then Linda uttered that very phrase. That became the climax of this evening. She grinned her most poisonous grin and, looking straight at Katie's mother, said, Oh, we miscalculated. Why did it take you so long? The kids were so hungry. They couldn't resist. Stephanie, who was sitting next to her, snorted into her fist, barely holding back her laughter. Dave blushed to the roots of his hair and lowered his eyes. He was ashamed, but he didn't dare say anything to his mother. Valerie's face froze. She was a teacher with years of experience, accustomed to different situations. And for a moment she lost the power of speech from such blatant rudeness. Robert clenched his fists so hard that his knuckles turned white. That is, he said slowly, and his voice sounded metallic. You want to say that you ate everything that my daughter cooked for us, and didn't even leave anything for the guests, in whose honor this dinner was actually held. But why nothing? Linda answered without blinking an eye. There's half a cucumber left in the fridge. I think. And Katie ordered some DoorDash. So you won't starve. This was beyond the pale. This was blatant, undisguised rudeness. Humiliation. Katie saw her father take a step forward, and she realized that if she didn't do something now, something irreparable would happen. She stood between him and her mother-in-law. Dad, don't, she said quietly. Then she turned to the guests and her family and smiled that same cold, calm smile that had so frightened Dave an hour ago. Mom, Dad, forgive this mess. You're a little tired from the road. Sit down, and dinner will be ready soon. She picked up her phone. Linda and Stephanie watched her with curiosity. Dave watched with alarm, the parents with bewilderment. Katie demonstratively opened the DoorDash app on her phone. Okay, let's see. The Capitol Grill. It seems they have the best cuisine in town. She began to leaf through the menu, reading the names of the dishes out loud. Dry-aged ribeye steak, lobster and avocado salad, truffle, risotto, and for dessert, chocolate souffle with vanilla ice cream. Do you think we've had enough? She looked up and glanced around. A ringing silence hung in the room. All eyes were on Katie. Her calm was so unnatural in this tense atmosphere that it seemed frightening. Linda was the first to break the silence. What are you up to? She asked, suspiciously. Nothing special. Katie shrugged, not looking up from her phone. I'll just order dinner, since the one I cooked was gone so quickly. She pressed the call button. Hello. Capitol Grill Delivery. I'd like to place an order. She spoke loudly and clearly, so that everyone could hear. Dave jerked to say something, but Katie's father put his hand on his shoulder, and he froze. Yes, I'm ready to order. Katie continued. 1 lobster salad. 2 ribeye steaks. Medium rare. 1 truffle risotto. And for dessert. She paused, looking at her mother. Mom, will you have souffle or tiramisu souffle? My dear, Valerie answered quietly, playing along with her. 3 chocolate souffle. Please. And a bottle of good California wine. Red. Dry. She gave the address. The operator on the other end of the line clarified something. Yes. That's right. Katie nodded. For how many people? She glanced at the whole company, her parents. Dave. Her mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Then, with exaggerated politeness in her voice, she said, emphasizing each word, for 3, an order for 3 people. The room became so quiet that you could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Linda's face lengthened. Stephanie blinked in confusion, and Dave's left eye began to twitch. Payment. Katie looked at the amount they had told her. Yes. Good. I'll pay with my card. She took a plastic card out of her wallet. It was their joint credit card with Dave, which they used for large purchases. She demonstratively entered the card number, expiration date, and CVV. The payment went through. Thank you. We expect delivery in 45 minutes. She ended the call and looked with a smile at her husband's dumbfounded relatives. Well, that's it. We'll have dinner soon. She addressed only her parents, completely ignoring the others. It was a shot without a scream, without a scandal. But it hit the nail on the head. She didn't just order food. She demonstratively excluded them from her celebration. She showed them that they were strangers at this table, and what was most painful for them, she did it at their expense, spending what they considered their money on strangers, her parents, a sum equal to almost $110, nearly half their monthly grocery budget. What are you doing? Dave finally squeezed out. His face was distorted with anger and amazement. You spent almost $110 from our joint card. From our joint credit card. Katie calmly corrected him. Which, by the way, I mostly pay off. Because your salary goes to help your mother and sister. So consider this, my small compensation for emotional damages. What damages? Linda got mad. Are you crazy? To order such expensive food when the house is full of leftovers. Leftovers. Katie waved her hand at the empty plates. Excuse me. I don't see any. I only see dirty dishes after your feast. Stefania, finally realizing that she was left without dinner, pooted. I want to eat too. She whined. Why didn't you order for us? Katie looked at her with cold disdain. Because, Stefania, you've already eaten your dinner. Even dessert. I hope you enjoyed it. At that moment, Katie felt her parents, who had been sitting tense until then, relax a little. Her mother looked at her with gratitude, and her father nodded slightly, approving of her actions. She was not alone, and that gave her strength. The climax had happened, not the one her mother-in-law had hoped for, not the dish-smashing scene, not her humiliated tears, but a quiet, elegant, crushing blow that put everyone in their place. She was no longer a victim. She had become a player who had just made her move. And it was checkmate. After the order was placed and the last words were spoken, a thick, heavy silence fell over the living room. Katie sat back in her chair and pointedly buried her face in her phone, pretending to read the news. In reality, she couldn't see the letters. Her hands were shaking slightly, and her heart was pounding as if it was about to jump out of her chest. The adrenaline from her daring act began to recede, giving way to the cold realization of what she had just done. She had, in essence, declared war. She felt the withering glances of her mother-in-law and sister-in-law. She felt the confused and angry gaze of her husband. She wanted to get up and leave, to hide, so as not to see their faces. But she forced herself to sit up straight with an inscrutable expression. She could not show weakness. Not now. I'll be right back, she said, standing up, her voice surprisingly even. She went into the bathroom and locked the door behind her. Only here, in the small, enclosed space, did she allow herself to lean against the wall and close her eyes. A wave washed over her, a mixture of bitter satisfaction, fear, and overwhelming loneliness. She had won this little battle. Yes, she had put them in their place. But at what cost? She looked at her reflection in the mirror. Paliface. Dilated pupils. Tightly pressed lips. It was her. But somehow different. The old Katie would never have done this. She would have kept quiet. Swallowed the insult. Tried to smooth things over. Baked another dessert to please everyone. But that Katie died that evening at a table covered with dirty dishes. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She cried silently, so that no one would hear. She cried from the humiliation she had endured for years. She cried from the betrayal of her husband, who was supposed to be her support, but remained a participant in her persecution. She cried from pity for herself, for that girl who had dreamed of simple family happiness. But got this. She remembered their wedding. Modest, but so happy. Dave looked at her with loving eyes and swore that he would do everything to make her happy. Where was that Dave now? He was sitting in the living room, angry and humiliated, and probably hated her for daring to stand up to his mother. There was a gentle knock on the door. Katie, daughter, are you okay? It was her mother's voice. Katie quickly washed her face with cold water, trying to wipe away the traces of tears. Yes. Mom, everything is fine. I'll be right out. She took a few deep breaths. Enough crying. She did what she had to. She protected herself and her parents' dignity, and she would not regret it. She opened the door. Mom stood in the hallway with a worried expression. Are you sure? Katie nodded. More than. She returned to the living room just as the doorbell rang. I'll get it, she said, getting ahead of Dave. She went downstairs, picked up the bags of fragrant hot food, and returned. She silently began to arrange the containers on the clean half of the table. The aromas of steak, lobster, and chocolate filled the room. Her mother-in-law and Stephanie did not take their hungry and angry eyes off her. Dave sat gloomier than a storm cloud. Mom, Dad, sit down, Katia said, addressing only her parents. She sat down at the table, feeling completely devastated, but at the same time, strangely free. The emotional breakdown had passed. She had survived this blow, and it had made her stronger. She knew that after this evening, her life would never be the same, and perhaps it was for the best. Katie laid out the food on 3 plates for herself, her mother and her father. Her movements were deliberately slow and careful. She placed the plate in front of her father, who immediately dug into the juicy steak with pleasure. Then in front of her mother, who touched her hand with gratitude. Finally, she put the plate in front of herself. She cut off a piece of meat and put it in her mouth. The taste was divine, but she barely felt it. All her receptors were tuned to the atmosphere in the room. The atmosphere was electrified to the limit. Linda sat with her, arms crossed over her chest, and glared at her with a look full of fury. Stephanie was openly staring at their plates, swallowing her saliva. Dave was looking at one point on the wall. His jaws were clenched tightly. And you know, it's very tasty, Robert said loudly, turning to his wife. This Capital Grille knows how to cook. Unlike some others. He pointedly smirked. Valerie smiled faintly. Yes. The meat is very tender. Katie, you're a smart girl for ordering. Otherwise, we would have left hungry. This conversation was pure provocation, and everyone understood it. At that moment, Katie's phone vibrated. It was Amy. Sorry, Katie said to her parents. I'll just be a minute. She stood up and went out onto the balcony, closing the door tightly behind her. Hello, she said into the phone. Katie. Hello? Well, how was your anniversary? I hope your mother-in-law didn't ruin the celebration, her friend asked cheerfully. And Katie, unexpectedly for herself, laughed. Oh, Amy, you can't even imagine. And she told the whole story about the eaten dinner, about the empty plates, about the restaurant order for three. Amy on the other end of the line was silent at first, and then burst into laughter. Casey, you are my hero, she screamed into the receiver. Finally, finally, you showed this family who's boss. I am so proud of you. Her friend's words acted on Katie like balm for the soul. Do you think I did the right thing? She asked, doubtfully. Right, yes. It was brilliant. You have no idea how many years I've been waiting for you to stop being a doormat and show your teeth. What are they doing now? Sitting there, looking at us with hungry eyes. Dave seems ready to kill me. He'll survive, but maybe he'll finally understand that you can't walk all over your wife forever. Listen, what are you going to do next? Katie looked through the glass at her family. At her parents, who were eating an expensive dinner with dignity. And at the other family, humiliated and angry. I don't know, she answered honestly. But I know for sure that things won't be like before. This conversation with her friend finally strengthened her in her conviction. She returned to the table feeling more confident. She didn't just make a power play. She defended her boundaries. She showed that she couldn't be treated like that. She finished her steak, drank a glass of wine, and felt her strength returning. The internal fracture that had begun in the bathroom was over. She was no longer afraid. Anger and determination had replaced fear and resentment. She knew that a difficult conversation with Dave lay ahead. Perhaps even a divorce. But she was ready for it. It was better to be alone than to be nobody in her own family. She looked at her parents, who looked at her with love and pride, and realized that she would never be alone. She had people who would always be on her side. And this realization was more important than any dinner or any relationship. When dinner was over, and only 3 empty containers from the restaurant food remained on the table, Linda could not stand it. Well, that's enough. She stood up abruptly, knocking over her chair. I will not tolerate this humiliation any longer. She turned to Katie. Her face was distorted with anger. How dare you spend the family money on this? On this show. When your husband works his ass off to provide for the family. My husband... Katie answered calmly but firmly. Just silently watched as his mother and sister humiliated his wife and her parents. So I think this expense is entirely justified. Family intervened Katie's father, also getting up. His calm was deceptive. There was steel in his voice. You call what you have arranged a family. You came to someone else's house, ate everything that was prepared for the guests, and still have the audacity to accuse my daughter of something. This is my son's house too. The mother-in-law shrieked. He is on the lease. On the lease? Robert nodded. But it seems he had forgotten who had contributed most of the money for the down payment on this apartment and who had helped them with the move-in costs. Weren't you? Linda. The one who said you didn't have the opportunity. The mother-in-law stopped short. It was a blow below the belt. She really hadn't given her son a penny for housing, believing that it was the bride's duty to come to the family with assets. Dave. She turned to her son. Seeking support. Tell them. Tell your wife to apologize. Dave stood between 2 fires. On one side, an angry mother. On the other, a cold, determined wife, and her stern father. He looked from one to the other in confusion. Mom, maybe we shouldn't. Shouldn't. What? Linda screamed. You're going to let this bitch talk to me like that? I'm your mother, and this is my wife. Dave suddenly said, and there was something new in his voice. Something like despair. And I don't know what to do. And I know. Katia said. She stood up and walked over to him. I'll tell you what to do. You're going to take your mother and your sister and drive them home. And then you'll come back and we'll talk. Or you won't. Just see it for yourself. Her voice was absolutely calm. It wasn't an ultimatum. Not a threat. It was a statement of fact. Stefania, who had been silently watching the scene, realized that the party was completely ruined. Let's go. Mom. She whined. Why are we standing here? I'm going to be sick from the smell of their fancy food. Linda cast a final withering glance at Katie. You'll regret this. She whispered. I'll make my son divorce you. Try it. Katie answered just as quietly. She watched as Dave, hanging his head, handed his mother her coat. As Stephanie disgustedly pushed away the chair, as the three of them left her apartment, when the door closed behind them, Katie felt her legs give way. She sank down onto the sofa. Mom sat down next to her and hugged her. You did the right thing. Daughter, I'm proud of you. I destroyed my family. Katie whispered. No, her father said firmly. You saved it, or at least gave it a chance to be saved. If your husband is not a complete fool, he will understand everything and come back. And if not, then you don't need such a family. They sat in silence for a long time. Katie's parents helped her clear the table. She washed 3 steak plates and 3 wine glasses. The rest of the pile of dirty dishes stood on the kitchen counter. A silent reproach. Let Dave clean up if he comes back, she thought. Her parents left closer to midnight. Katie was left alone in her quiet, echoing apartment. She didn't know if Dave would come back. And the worst thing was, she didn't know if she wanted him to come back. She just felt empty and endlessly tired. But somewhere deep inside, under a layer of pain and disappointment, a thin sprout of a new feeling was already breaking through a sense of self-worth. She was no longer a victim. And that was the most important thing. Dave didn't return that evening or the next day. Katie spent the weekend in a strange stupor. She cleaned the apartment, washed all the dishes, reorganized the closets. Every object associated with her husband caused a sharp pain. Here was his favorite coffee mug. Here was the book he read before bed. Here was their wedding photo on the mantel. She took the photo and put it in the bedroom dresser drawer. It was unbearable to look at their happy faces. She waited for his call. A text message. Some sign. But the phone was silent. This silence was worse than any argument. It meant that he had made his choice. He stayed with his mother. On Sunday evening, when despair had already begun to give way to dull apathy, the doorbell rang. Katie shuddered. She looked through the peephole. Dave stood alone on the threshold. She hesitated, not knowing whether to open the door or not, but then decided that this conversation had to take place. She opened the door. He looked terrible pale, rumpled, with eyes red from lack of sleep. May I come in? He asked quietly. She stepped back silently, letting him into the apartment. He went into the kitchen and sat down on the same chair where her father had recently sat. Where have you been? Katie asked. Her voice was even, emotionless. At Mom's? He lowered his head. We talked a lot. And what did you decide? When should I move out? There was sarcasm in her voice. He looked up at her, and she saw real torment in his eyes. Katie, don't do this. That's not why I came. I came to apologize. He spoke haltingly, stumbling. But Katie listened without interrupting. I understood everything. That evening, when you ordered this food, at first I got furious. And then, when they left, and I stayed with my mother, I suddenly looked at everything from the outside, and I felt so ashamed, so disgusted with myself. I saw how you prepared, how hard you tried, and I let them ruin it all. I didn't protect you. I betrayed you. He covered his face with his hands. Mom doesn't understand. She thinks it's all your fault, that you turned me against her. We had a terrible fight. For the first time in my life, I yelled at her, told her to never interfere in our lives again. And what did she do? Katie asked, not feeling the slightest bit of satisfaction. She told me to choose, either her or you. And I left. He looked at her with eyes full of tears. I got a motel room nearby. I couldn't stay with her and I couldn't come to you. I had no right. Katie, I know what I did. I know that there may be no forgiveness for me. But I want you to know I chose you. I always have. I was just a coward, afraid of my mother's tears, her manipulation, her guilt trips. He stood up and approached her, but did not dare touch her. I will file for divorce if that is what you want. I will not claim anything. The apartment is yours. I know that. Just give me a chance. Not as a husband, but as a person, A chance to prove that I can change. Katie was silent. She looked at this broken, unhappy man and felt no malice. Only a huge, all-consuming fatigue. The conflict was over. The mother-in-law and sister-in-law had been defeated. Their power over Dave had collapsed. Justice seemed to have triumphed. But for some reason, Katie's soul was empty. She had won the war. But the battlefield was littered with the wreckage of her family. I need to think. Dave, she finally said, I need a lot of time to think. He nodded. I understand. I'll wait. He left, leaving the keys to the apartment on the kitchen table. Katie took them in her hand. The cold metal did not warm her palm. The denouement had come. But it brought no relief. There was uncertainty ahead. Almost a year had passed. Spring in Denver was surprisingly warm and sunny. Katie sat in a cozy coffee shop downtown and drank a latte, watching people hurrying about their business. She had changed, cut her hair in a modern bob, changed her style of clothing to something more professional and confident. But most importantly, her demeanor had changed. It no longer contained that hidden anxiety and readiness to give in. Now her eyes showed calm and knowledge of her own worth. She had not forgiven Dave. At least, not in the sense of returning to how things were. They divorced quietly, peacefully, without scenes or division of property. He had really changed. He started seeing a therapist, found a new, higher-paying job, and, most surprisingly, learned to say no to his mother. They met sometimes to drink coffee and talk. He told her about his progress. She about hers. These were meetings of two old acquaintances who had once been connected by something big, but now only warm memories and a slight sadness remained. After her son finally got out of her control, Linda fell ill with high blood pressure. But even the illness did not change her. She still considered Katie the main culprit of all the troubles. Stefania, left without financial support from her brother, was forced to find work. She got a job at a Starbucks and, according to rumors, constantly complained about her life. And Katie lived. She left remote work and got a job at a large marketing agency, where her talent as a social media strategist was appreciated. She worked hard, traveled with her friends, enjoyed her freedom. She realized that she could be happy and self-sufficient without a man by her side. Sometimes she remembered that terrible evening, the empty table, her mother-in-law's angry eyes, her husband's betrayal. But these memories no longer hurt. They became part of her experience. But a bitter but important lesson about how important it is to value yourself. How important it is to be able to protect your boundaries and not allow anyone, even your closest people, to humiliate you. Her phone on the table vibrated. It was a text from a new acquaintance, whom Amy had introduced her to. Hi. Maybe we could grab dinner tonight. Katie smiled. She didn't yet know what she would answer. But she knew one thing. Her life no longer depended on other people's decisions. She chooses who she will be with, where she will go, and what she will do. She finished her coffee, went out into the sunlit street, and took a deep breath of fresh spring air. A new life full of possibilities was ahead. And she was ready for it. Thank you for being with us until the end. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Your support is the best reward for